Just for the seniors today? Yeah. Okay, let's get ready to start. Call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone. Reminds me of school here, all the youth in the chambers with us. So I just want to say welcome back to those who were away for the Easter break. I was one of those. It's a great day outside. And again, we got quite a few visitors to the chambers today for some proclamations that we'll get to in a minute. I have one item outside the kit, and other than that, I don't see anything else outside our agenda for today. So I'll call for a motion to adopt the agenda items here. Moved by Councillor Tessier, seconded by Councillor Aker. All right, we'll call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. Then we'll move on to the minutes of April the 19th, 2011. A motion to adopt the minutes. Councillor Stoyles has moved it, seconded by Councillor Lane. Any errors or omissions in the minutes of April the 19th, 2011? None noted. Okay, call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. We now move on then to business arising from the minutes. Councillor Lane?
Thank you, Your Worship. Item number 253.
Okay.
I would just like to, just for the minutes, for the public record, I wanted to support the recommendation of the committee. I see here that this was a somewhat of a split decision, if you will, and I did take the time to view it on the meeting on the webcast, and I think that this was a classic case of, in my view at least, of making the right decision for all the right reasons, politics aside, and so I wanted to support the members of council who voted that way, and I would like the record to show that while I agreed, that I'd love to see the Anglican Church here in the city of Mount Pearl. I think it's a perfect location that without water and sewer, it goes against our policy, it sets a precedent. It's something that I would love for us to be able to do, but like the majority, I think, I don't think we could do it. And I know that's not always the easy thing to do. People want to hear certain things sometimes, and it's easy to cave into that. But I think for the sake of the minutes and to support the colleagues here who did what I view to be the right decision, I wanted to let the record show that I support that decision.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business arising from the minutes?
If I could just on that one thing, I don't want to prolong a debate,
Sure.
Deputy Mayor, on that, but the one thing that, it's an excellent job of reflecting the debate, the discussion, and the reasons, the rationale why it was turned down, but one of the things that I think that should be made, and I made a note of it when I was going through the minutes, was the fact that not only did we turn down other projects that didn't have the support of water and sewer, and really it was about the fairness and consistency, but we also turned down a church application. And I think that's worth noting. The Christadelphians some time ago made an application for a church. It was really almost the same set of circumstances, actually. It was in the Ken Mountain Road area. It was a church. Didn't have water and sewer. There were all kinds of challenges associated with that. So I think that's where the consistency part comes in. We had all kinds of development, and we still do, above the 190, below the 190, where water and sewer services there. And I do respect, as we all do, other council members' right to dissent. But I'm just saying, in this case, it wasn't only a question of turning on development in a consistent manner, but we actually had an application from a church as well. And I know, Councillor Aker, in your time, it was prior to your time that the church was presented to council for an application. So I understand where you're coming from on that. I wanted to make that point because I think it's important that it be made. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. No other business arising. Anything from the action report? If not, let us move on then to our next item, which we have a couple of proclamations this week here in council, and as I said, we have quite a few youth here. The first one deals with the Mount Pearl Youth Week proclamation. So what I'll do is I'll read the proclamation first, and then I'll sign it for you. And then we have someone from the Youth Action Team, Mr. Brian Aylward, is going to come up and say a few words afterwards, Brian. I'll get you to use this microphone, and you got to nestle in, snuggle in with me, so we'll get you on the camera so you can watch yourself on the web later on. And then after Brian has these words, we'll call up the rest of the youth here to come up and get a little snap took. All right? So the proclamation is the Mount Pearl Youth Week proclamation for May 15th to May 21st, 2011. Whereas recreation benefits individuals, families, neighborhoods, and communities, and the City of Mount Pearl provides high-quality programs and leisure opportunities for residents to lead healthy, active lives through recreation and to make our community a great place to live, to work, and to play. And whereas there is an increasing interest in youth development through recreation in Canada that is founded on a substantial and growing body of research to support the role of recreation in the positive development of youth. And whereas Canadian youth are often unrecognized for the valuable contributions they make to communities and Canada's social, economic, and civic landscape. And whereas meaningful youth engagement through recreation emphasizes access, equity, and social justice, and leads to positive youth development. And whereas Youth Week reminds us all of the valuable contributions that recreation and parks can make to youth development and that youth can make to community development. And further, that Mount Pearl Youth Week is endorsed by the City of Mount Pearl, the Mount Pearl Youth Opportunity Fund Foundation, the Youth Action Team, and the network of agencies and individuals committed to the positive development of our youth. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in recognition of these benefits and values, and to provide a focal point within the year for increasing awareness, that I, Jim Locke, Deputy Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, hereby proclaim May the 15th to May 21st, 2011, as Mount Pearl Youth Week. So I'll just sign this here, and I'll get our youth representative, Mr. Brian Aylward, to come forth and have a few words. I think that's on.
There we go. Okay. Throughout Youth Week, we actually have multiple events planned. On Monday, we have the debate, and the debate will take place at 6:30 here in Council Chambers. On Tuesday, we actually have the guest speaker that will attend all the local high schools and junior high. And the guest speaker for that will be Michael Galtus. On Wednesday, we, of course, have the Focus on Youth Awards at the Glacier. And Thursday, we have the Ruckus Show, and it's a Battle of the Bands. And the show will take place at the Glacier from 7 to 10 p.m. And we have 6 bands performing, and one of which will be closing. After that, we have, on Friday, we have the preteen and teen swims. The preteen swim will take place from 8 to 8:50, and the teen swim from 9 to 9:50. With that, I would like to take a moment to thank the Youth Opportunity Fund and the City of Mount Pearl for supporting this event and this week. It's a great thing, and we're glad that we have it. And we'd also like to send out a welcome to Barbara Predham, for attending today. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brian. Good job there. Just one question came to my mind. All these events, are they free to the youth? Is there any sort of fee associated with any of this?
Yes, they are free to the youth.
They're all free to the youth. Okay. Good stuff. Well, here's your... thanks for coming up here. Thank you. And we'll get to the front there now. Maybe we can get the rest of the youth up. Have a little shot here.
Some can get behind too. Some people get behind. Jump up on the...
You guys get here because you've got to be seen. Don't worry about seeing me. I'll get in the back now. Sit down.
Put the shorter people in the front.
You're tall when you're at it. You're going to... Yeah. Just make sure you can all see Gary in the camera. Oh, that's good. That's great. We all good? Yeah. Off we go. Just fine. Make sure you can see. I'd like to take one more.
Hang on, Gary. Come back. You want to take a picture again?
Some more pictures? Gary, you gonna get it? Come on, we're having a picture together.
You can frame it, but you can't take it, that is.
No problem doing that. Cutting off your head could be a problem. Perfect.
That's great. Well, thanks again, guys. And good luck in your week. Good stuff. Yeah. That's great. Now, before the youth leave, did any council want to make any comments or ask any questions of the youth? Okay, go
Can I
ahead.
ask Brian a question? Brian, that Thursday night event, which is the Ruckus and the Battle of the Bands, is that a leftover from the Frosty Festival? It's a new event, is it? Is it similar to what used to be done during the Frosty Festival?
No, we changed it actually a fair bit. It's well, the Frosty event wasn't actually Battle of the Bands.
No.
We changed it a fair bit.
Oh, okay.
If he has a band, he's not going in it.
No.
Not going in it? He has the band, right, you know? But anyway, to all of you, Brian, under your leadership and the entire Youth Action team, good luck and have fun that week. Take care.
Yeah, it's a good initiative, guys. And as you know, I got a couple of students here, well, several students from Mount Pearl Senior High. So I have the pleasure to work with youth every day. And I know Councillor Walsh, in his previous career, worked with youth. And part of your proclamation did say there that quite often the value of our youth is not recognized by society. So it's a great initiative. The City of Mount Pearl, I know Council appreciates all that our youth do. We know the value that you guys bring to the community. And this is a great week of events that you guys got outlined here. So on behalf of Council, we wish you well, and thanks for coming out today. All right, guys? Thank you. No, good stuff. Okay, the next item here is another proclamation. And this one involves North American Occupational Safety and Health Week. The theme for this year is A Commitment for Life. What's your plan? And I'll read the proclamation here, after which Councillor Lane is going to come up and say a few words with respect to this. Whereas the goal of NAOSH Week activities and events is to focus the attention of all stakeholders on this important topic and to educate each other with positive attitudes and behaviors at work, at home, and in the community. And whereas it is imperative that employers, employees, and the general public be aware of the importance of preventing illness and injury in the workplace. And whereas during the North American Occupational Safety and Health Week of May 1st, 2011 through to May 7th, 2011, the City of Mount Pearl will be mobilizing in an effort to increase employees' understanding of the importance of occupational safety and health, to raise the awareness of the role and contribution of safety, health, and environmental professionals, and to reduce workplace injuries and illness by encouraging new safety and health activities and interest in North American Occupational Safety and Health Week. Now, therefore, I, Jim Locke, Deputy Mayor of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim May 1st through to the 7th of 2011 as North American Occupational Safety and Health Week in the City of Mount Pearl. So I'll sign this, if I can get a loan of a pen, actually, because all I had was a pencil here. Thank you. Oh, that one's not working for me. All right, I can sign it after. If I can call on Councillor Lane to say some words to this proclamation, if you would.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Of course, NAOSH Week is a very important week that's recognized every year in North America, and certainly we do so here in the city of Mount Pearl. I think we all recognize in all of our workplaces, that the goal is that you come home to your families in the same condition in which you went to work. And that's really the goal of Occupational Health and Safety. And Occupational Health and Safety Week is meant, obviously, to drive that message home to employers, to employees, and to the general public as to the importance in working safely so that we can all return home to our families. In relation to that, the City of Mount Pearl, we certainly are fortunate that we have an occupational health and safety program in place here in the city. We actually have our own health and safety officer, and there's not a lot of municipalities within the province that actually have their own health and safety officer. So we're certainly, I think, up there in terms of being proactive as it comes to that. And we have a very active health and safety committee. I think we have a number of committees, or at least are represented throughout the various parts of our organization. We have a contractors program and so on. So I think we're well on our way here when it comes to health and safety, and it's certainly something that's very important to municipalities. I know municipalities, Newfoundland, Labrador, are now looking at possibly trying to start a municipal sector safety council, because they recognize the importance of protecting their workers. And while we do provide a public service, and that's really our main mandate as a city, we are also employers. The City of Mount Pearl is an employer. We have a number of employees who work for us, and we recognize the value in ensuring their health and safety. So to try to bring that message home, I guess this week there's a number of programs and so on that we have throughout the week. This Sunday past, the city participated in the Steps for Life 5K walk around Octagon Pond in Paradise. This is an initiative that started a couple of years ago, and it's to raise money to provide counselling services and so on for the family members of workers who have been fatally injured on the job. And it's a great initiative, and it's something that we've participated in the last 2 or 3 years, I do believe. And so we're certainly proud to do so. And throughout the week, you can see there's a number of activities. We have a number of lunch and learns and so on taking place throughout our facilities. There's going to be a session on eye safety, which is going to be facilitated by the CNIB. There's going to be some training there. There's going to be a session on lessons learned during Hurricane Igor, and that's going to be taking place by Fire and Emergency Services, the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador. And there's a number of other workshops here that they're doing. There's going to be the Smokers Helpline, Newfoundland and Labrador Lung Association. They're going to be doing information on smoking cessation programs and so on for our employees. And it's going to end off on Friday with a safety barbecue that we're having down at Park Place for all of our employees. Again, just a little recognition for them, and I guess they'll have some draw prizes and so on, and some contests and that relating to health and safety. So there's a number of things that we're doing here throughout the week to recognize North American Occupational Safety Health Week. But I think the important thing to note here in the City of Mount Pearl is while we do this, just to bring special recognition to this week, I think it's fair to say that in the City of Mount Pearl we're very cognizant of health and safety, and we have a good program in place. All of our employees have been trained, and we are working safely, and knock on wood, I think it's really paid off, and I think our excellent experience has been very good over the last number of years. We have had incidents, there's no doubt, like everywhere over the years, but I think it's fair to say that due to our proactive efforts in this regard, that our excellent experience has been very well, and generally speaking, our employees have fared very well in terms of workplace accidents and incidents and so on. So I want to commend all of our staff and who were involved in doing that, and hopefully all the events will go well this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to make a comment on this? Yep. Councillor Tessier?
This one is always this one hits close to home with me, actually. I have a younger brother who nearly lost his life in a workplace accident. So it's good. I mean, we know we're doing a great job, and we know that a lot of municipalities are doing a great job, and it's because we're publicly responsible. We're using taxpayers' dollars to do what we need to do to cause our towns and cities to function well. But I think the message definitely needs to get out there as well to some of the private industry as well, that everybody has a responsibility to ensure that their employees' safety is at the forefront all the time. And I really like the expression that you use, that you come home. You come home at the end of the day, fit, safe, well, because again, I know what it's like to get that phone call. So again, I think that we need to encourage all sectors of all workforces to ensure that they provide the best possible care and the safest atmosphere for their employees to work in.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? I do know that just prior to Easter at Mount Pearl Senior High School, we had a guest speaker come in speaking of this aimed directly at the youth. And I think the stat that was brought up there is that there's one youth injured every hour in Canada. And we had one gentleman, he was from actually Victoria on Vancouver Island. He was working at a lumber yard, and they were moving a stack of masonite plywood up on the forklift, and it shifted a little bit. And to cut to the chase, it fell on him and severed his spine. So he came to to bring that message home to our youth, which would, very good for the youth to hear it. I don't think it was at all schools, because I think I think Sobeys had this guest speaker in, and he was able to just to fit, a couple of hours in, so he was able to come to our school. But it was very graphic. They showed a video, and of course they had 6 or 8 victims there, and then this gentleman was a victim. Now he was actually walking because he went through therapy and that, but it really hit home to the kids that. Because again, working in the school system as I do, I see students all the time with injuries, burns on their arms or their hands or squat toes or what have you. So you're absolutely right. I liked Councillor Lane mentioned about being proactive. We are here at the city very proactive in terms of our safety, but that's got to trickle right down through all the community. So again, a worthwhile week just to bring attention to this.
I was going to say, Your Worship, I attended a ceremony at Confederation Building today morning. A number of our residents were there at that laying wreaths in memory of loved ones who had been injured or killed at the workplace. Actually, my own brother-in-law, my sister's husband, was killed on a job site in 1992. So I know what it's like going to the hospital and getting a phone call when a loved one is injured and he ended up being on life support and donated these organs after he passed away, because he only lasted a couple of days after his injury. So it has been a number of people here in Newfoundland, because first when you hear it, sometimes we don't realise that we do have people in our own community, because he was a Mount Pearl resident for over 30 years, and we do have a number of people here in our own community that lost their life because of an injury, and my brother-in-law was one of them.
Worthwhile week for this. All right, there's no other comments. Let's push on now. We have some correspondence here. This is from the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators. This is a good news piece of correspondence. The City of Mount Pearl is being recognized. We're going to receive a merit award for the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators Environment Award. So we're receiving a recognition for the Glacier Arena expansion, specifically our EcoChill system. So their conference is being held the 1st of June in Halifax, and my understanding is that our CAO, Ms. Peach, will be there to receive this merit award, as well as Councillor Tessier will be there as well to bring this home. So that's good news. We're being recognized because again we're a leader again in this area. Any comments on that one? No? All right. Well, let's push on then. Our next item are the committee reports, and first up is Community Services Committee, and Councillor Walsh is the chair. Councillor Walsh, if you would.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Locke. Seems like a ways away yet, but City Days is actually right around the corner. In fact, the first item here pertains to the tender for the audio lighting, and we're recommending that go to the lowest qualified bidder. The cost is $565.70, and that includes HST, and I ask for the support of council for that, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Wald, seconded by Councillor Lane. Any comments or questions? No? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
The second item addresses I guess really a regular maintenance issue with the grounds at Admiralty House. We had a meeting a short while ago, Your Worship, with the Board of Directors and the Executive Director of Admiralty House. One of the things that they have, I want to just mention as an aside, as one of the priorities, is to actually see the restoration of the grounds at Admiralty House kind of to a condition where it was when they were put in there, really that coincided with the royal visit quite a number of years ago. It was really a striking facility, and I know for many years after that we maintained the grounds in immaculate condition. Over the course of the years, naturally, things grow over and the grounds are not as well kept, and I guess in fairness, you don't keep it to the same standard as you might
For a
when
royal
you're preparing
visit.
for a royal visit,
Yeah.
as I guess other places would do a similar thing. But this $10,000 is actually part of the regular ongoing maintenance that was dedicated for it. There is money in the budget for that. But I'm just, I guess, preparing council as part of their overall plan for Admiralty House as a destination, that one of the things that they'd really like to see is that refurbished so that it comes back to the quality and standard and I guess beauty really as a destination that Admiralty House has. It's a very beautiful site. The outdoors, many people, when it was in the state that it was in a few years ago of, real full bloom and beauty, had wedding pictures taken there and the like. It was really becoming a bit of a destination, and we'd like to return to that. For now, we're just asking for support for the $10,000 of ongoing outdoor maintenance at that site. And as I said, just preparing you that one of the big priorities is to continue to refurbish that site and perhaps restore it to its former glory. I so move, Your Worship.
Okay, moved by Councillor Wald, seconded by Councillor Lane. Questions or comments? No? All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion's carried.
The third item pertains to the Arena Board of Management and their their final installation of $18,600. It's really the second half of the installment. It's perhaps a little bit early. This evening in committee we'll have a discussion about some other issues relating to that as to why it's necessary. But this is part of their overall operating grant. It's money that's due them anyway, and we're really talking about expediting it by just a month or two as part of the challenges related to the overall expansion of the facility there and some additional costs that were incurred relating to that. So I'm asking for the release of that $18,600 a little early, and I put that motion to council now. Thank you.
Okay, moved by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Lane. Comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Your Worship, over the last several weeks, a number of councillors, particularly in the other business section at the end of our meeting, talked about the state of the city, our trails, our walkways, even our own properties, quite frankly, following the winter months, the amount of salt, and the spring in Newfoundland can be a kind of a dismal, dreary time at times, particularly after the winter and the snow goes, and it exposes some of the realities and the harshness of our bad winter weather. We have undertaken a project called a 20-minute makeover in Mount Pearl for the last number of years, and it's really grown to be a huge success. Our schools, corporate community, our city employees, but most importantly, it's the normal, everyday, ordinary residents of our neighborhoods and families that actually get out and undertake, to an area, whether it's in their own household area or most likely some of the green spaces close to the neighborhood parks, trails, and open spaces. They all need to be done. If we relied on the services only of our paid staff, it would be very, very challenging for us to get to them all, particularly some of the green belt areas and the open spaces, such as where I live, right behind Westminster. There's a huge trail that runs all the way from Admiralty Wood right to the boundary of Mount Pearl, quite frankly. And we get out there every year on a weekend usually and spend a few hours cleaning it up. The formal kickoff of that so-called 20-minute makeover is on this Saturday, actually at the Reed Center, beginning at 9 o'clock for an hour. But it runs for right up to the second week of June. Anytime you can go get the bags. They're free of charge. The garbage bags are available at any of the locations of Tim Hortons, even the drive-thrus. If you're going through a drive-thru at Tim Hortons, you can ask for a number of bags for the 20-minute makeover cleanup, and they'll provide those for you. They're available here at City Hall, and they're also available at the Reed Center, just as a matter of convenience. I do want to take the opportunity, Your Worship, to thank in particular Tim Hortons. They come on board in a big way. They come on board financially with a couple of $1,000s, and I think that's, given the fact that we all see coffee cups around, and we've talked about the supermarket areas in the last couple of meetings, that sort of thing. This is Tim Hortons stepping up and taking some ownership and responsibility and trying to curb some of the problems that they know full well, the disposal of cups, disposal of these coffee cups contribute to. So they are a major sponsor in this. They provide money, they provide T-shirts, prizes, product, and other support, and we really do appreciate their involvement. They've been involved right from the beginning on this project. So those who can, get out on Saturday morning, join us at the Reed Center. It's only an hour. It's a great get-together. And whether it's Saturday morning or another time, depending on the weather Saturday, it may or may not be a great day for a lot of groups to get started, and it's still a little early, but never too early to get some work done with it. Come out, join us, have some fun, but most importantly, spread the word among your neighborhoods that this is an important project. The final thing that I want to say on this, and this is really for information only, registration is not necessary, but when you register, it does provide us with valuable information about the levels of participation and the success of our program year over year. So if you could take the time, you can register online, you can make a call to register, so that we can actually add your name, your group, your neighborhood to our website and acknowledge the fact that you have taken the initiative to do some good community work in cleaning up an area. And of course that area can also be identified so another group won't go back and do that. So take the time to do that if you can, and we'd be most appreciative of it. So it's really for information only. We're kicking it off on Saturday, and we'd love to see you there.
Yeah, it's a great initiative. I just have one question from one resident. They were asking about in some of the areas we have felled trees from Igor that have snapped, and they're wondering, is the city going to go in? What's the city policy, just to leave that and let nature take its course? Are we going to go in and trim it? They asked if they could go in and cut it. Would there be any harm if they went in with their buck saw and cut it down and removed it? And so I said I wasn't sure I would raise it today. So if Mr. Lush can speak to that.
Yes, Your Worship. It depends where it is. In many situations, we will give, if it's along a walking trail, we'll give a permit and let somebody go collect it if they want to. But it depends on the particular situations. But if they call 1016 Public Works, and they'll put them into contact with the foreman, and we'll make a decision once we know the particulars of what will happen there.
So sometimes they're left to let nature take its course?
Very rarely they're left, but it depends how difficult they are to access, and depends whose property they're on. Sometimes they're not on city property, even though people think they're on city property.
Okay.
So every situation's a little different, so that's why we ask the residents to call the 748-1016 number, and they'll put you in contact with a foreman, and the foreman will go by, take a site visit, and let the resident know how we'd like to proceed with it.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's good to know.
I guess one of the important pieces of information that Mr. Lush provides here is the fact that people are often reticent maybe to go in with a chainsaw and cut it. And, of course, you wouldn't want them on private property. But, that's a good point. You will give a permit, go in, cut it, because there are a lot of felled trees, and a lot of people that still burn wood.
Right.
And they'd be most welcome to it, and they'd actually be doing something good for the city and for the environment, and they get some free firewood. So
absolutely.
It's all good.
Okay, good. Good to know.
The last thing, Your Worship, I just want to mention the Marlins placed second in the Spring Splash Swim, which was hosted by the St. John's Legends. It took place early April. Just want to pass along congratulations to our team, to the top achievers, and they broke 5 club records. I thought we had actually mentioned this before, but if we didn't and we missed it, I just want to, kudos to them again on doing that, because it was a great achievement. Second place, and most importantly, a lot of club records. That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Walsh. Next up is Corporate Services Committee report. Councillor Lane.
they don't have to stay, they want to stay.
They want to stay. No, they don't.
And if you believe that, I've got some great land down the Everglades for sale. One item, Your Worship, invoices for approval, totaling $1,215,343.76, listed 1 through 11, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Lane, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any comments, questions on that? No? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Next up is the Planning and Development Department report about economic development, so we'll call upon Councillor Stoyles.
We just have one item, Your Worship, and this is a convention taking place in Virginia, May 9th to the 13th. It's a business retention workshop. This is a program designed to help support business in an expansion in today's global economy, and this is already budgeted in the 2011 budget, and it's, of course, for me, history of economic development to attend this convention, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Stoyles, seconded by Councillor Aker. Comments or questions?
I think that's right, actually.
Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion's carried. Thank you, Councillor Stoyles. And the next item up is Infrastructure and Public Works. Councillor Aker.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. One item from the Engineering Services Committee. Now, let me get back on the right page here. Okay. This is the project related to the Commonwealth Avenue water line replacement. We have, as you can see, 5 bids to replace the water line. It's an old water line that we've been going back and forth and doing repairs on a regular basis. So I consider this expenditure as much an investment so that down the road we won't be going back and forth and spending money after on the old water line. The lowest bid is Newfound Construction, the amount of $473.37, and I move that we award the contract to Newfound Construction. Just with one note is that there is not money in the budget for this year for this, but the engineering services staff have assured me that they will find countervailing savings in other budget lines, and so I move we award the contract.
Okay, moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. Any comments or questions on this? Yes? Councillor Tessier?
Okay, the question is, when is this going to start? What part of Commonwealth Avenue is going to be affected, and how long do we expect the interruption? 3 questions.
I'll take a quick crack at it,
Okay.
and Director Lush will correct me for any little deviations that he observes. I understand this is the water line that comes down from Topsa Road, down Commonwealth Avenue, say to the end point, which would be the Waterford River. So basically, this feeds along that line. So the dig-up is going to be not on Commonwealth Avenue itself, inside the property boundaries, parallel to Commonwealth Avenue, all the way up to Topsa Road. It's quite the dig when you... No.
Which side of Commonwealth? East?
The
West?
right side going north, so that would be your east side.
East, okay. All right, behind Evans. Okay, yeah,
Might be a chance to put a water line in for some development of that corner.
maybe. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Councillor Lane?
Well, that answers most of it for me, but I guess just an overall larger question, really I guess for Ms. Peach. As you know, part of the whole gas tax program is that we had to adapt the PSAB model, and the whole intent of PSAB, of course, was to be able to, especially the tangible capital assets piece, my understanding was that we would be able to have an overall look at all of our infrastructure, to understand when things needed to be replaced and so on, and that way if you're going in, for argument's sake, to replace a road, which in this case we're not, I thought we had to dig up Commonwealth Avenue, but if you were digging up the asphalt or replacing it, you'd say, well, while we're at it, this pipe is about to go. So why pave it this year and have to tear it up again next year, and so on?
Similar to what we did on Park Avenue with the laterals.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So I guess to date, and I'm not sure when I thought that it was already adopted, because I thought in the last budget, or after the last budget, we sort of passed a PSAB statement as well. So when are we going to start using this process, or I guess would be my question, like in terms of on a go-forward basis now when we approve roads, underground infrastructure and so on, I would think that anything we do now should be first viewing this chart, if you will, of
It's where the
of
PSAB filter.
what's the
Yeah.
PSAB filter to know what needs to be done and so on. So we had to do it to gas tax money. We've put it in place. So are we using it? And if not, when are we going to start using it?
Ms. Peach?
Yes, Your Worship. As you know, there's two pieces to the whole PSAB project. One is the recording of capital assets for the financial statements. Another big piece is the assessment of our assets, or the condition of our assets, for just that purpose that Councillor Lane mentions. But the starting point was to get that inventory of assets and to record it. The asset management, and there was actually two pieces of software that does that. The asset management pieces of software is currently being analyzed and put in place primarily from the engineering department, and just with some, the changeover we had in the engineering department in the last year or so, that project, just hasn't proceeded to the extent that we would have liked. And the first priority was getting those assets recorded, and that was just done, as you know, just a few months ago. So that was the first piece that we have been successful in accomplishing, and throughout this year, that next stage will certainly be undertaken. That information will be used in the future, but it requires quite a significant, more activity than what took place just to get that inventory.
A lot of data entry, I guess, too.
There was a lot of data entry, and so on a go-forward basis, and how we determine, how those assets are going to be, the condition of those assets are going to be assessed, how often we need to do that. There would be a schedule over a number of years, that kind of thing. So that is in process, as best I can say, and
Okay.
is currently being worked on.
In a year from now, we'll be doing it?
Within a year, we would hope that, and we already do some of that already, and Director Lush can speak to that. We've been doing that all along to some extent, especially for our roads. But the comprehensive system that we purchased to put in place to aid in that is underway.
Mr. Lush?
We just haven't really informed the CAO, but we do actually do it. It's not, we don't utilize the software to the full extent, but we do utilize the asset management we have. We have the dates of all pipes, all underground infrastructure. Before we go replace a street, we know what the pipes are, the age of the pipes, and it helps us predict when we're going to actually go resurface a street. So we do use it, but you'll always get the anomaly, like the water line we're replacing on Commonwealth Avenue. It has, I'm going to say, nowhere near met its life expectancy. So, but the bigger picture items, the $1 million items, the asset management program, no problem. It will be a good predictor. But this is a small item. It's a $100,000 item in a $7 million budget. So these emergencies always come up. So, but we do use the asset management program. Really hasn't been communicated too far outside of engineering, because we keep it a secret of what we actually do, and then we come back with a list. But the list considers the condition of all the sewers before we go recommend what roads to do.
Okay.
Yeah, just one further question. I get that. Well, that's good. I mean, I'm glad that we're moving in that direction. I guess so. The bigger question is, your department kind of uses it in prioritizing work, but I think this is supposed to go, my understanding, a step further in that council, for argument's sake. I think the whole intent here is that a sitting council could say, well, you know what, and not all, we want to build a new sportsplex or a new baseball field or whatever it is, okay, a center for the arts, whatever we want to do. And the whole purpose behind this system, as I understood, would be to say, well, before you make that decision and you spend $5 million on this facility or on this whatever, you need to understand that you've got $5 million worth of pipes that are about to crumble in the ground before you do it. Because if not, and then if you decide to do it anyway, well, then you have to live with the consequences, political and otherwise, because someone could say, well, as a sitting council, I'm going to ignore this work. I think that was part of the reason. I'm going to ignore these pipes in the ground. Nobody knows it. Nobody can see it, because it's to my political advantage to build a community centre, because everyone's going to love that and it's going to look good on me, and we're coming into an election, whatever, and I might not make the, I guess someone possibly could not make the appropriate decisions for political reasons. So all that information is supposed to be out there, was my understanding, under this, so that you know exactly what you have, what the life expectancy is on it, so that as when you choose the priorities, and it's certainly our right to choose those priorities, but you do so up front with all the information, and everybody knows up front, this is the current state of all of our assets, and when you're making the decision over here, know that you have this maybe dire situation right here that is probably a bigger priority, just not as big a political priority. So to date, we don't have that type of a decision-making matrix in place, if you will. But I assume within the next year or so, you're saying that's what we will have, something similar to that?
Okay, Mr. Lush wants to respond?
No, we do have that in place, and we know it costs present dollars, $5 to $7 million is what we have to spend every year. There's there's highs and lows. Some years you might go, you have to spend $10 million, and the following year as little as $2 million. So we spread out the bumps, but on average, we know that we need to spend near $5 million a year on street replacement and pipe upgrading. We do know that, and we spread out the bumps. Some years it's a little more, some years it's a little less, but we do know that.
Okay, Councillor
And you
Lane?
spent $5 million last year.
Well, if I'm hearing Councillor Lane correctly, the information that you're looking for, we could probably use at budget time before we make any big decisions. So rather than the individual projects, before we make any financial decisions, this PSAB will come in and say, okay, over the next year or 2 years, we're going to have to spend X million dollars on this infrastructure. Yeah, so I think that's the question that you were asking for, not specifically whether or not, the engineering department knows how much money they're going to spend. So
They're prioritizing within their department.
Right.
I'm saying interdepartment. We might say, we could possibly say that, you know what? Based on the fact that everything's in such good shape here, you know what? You're not getting $5 million. You're getting only $1 million, because we need this $5 million and a higher priority in some other area, or vice versa. But we don't make that decision. We just simply say, well, I'm going to put in $5 million for roads. I'm going to put in, we need this, we need that. But in making those comparisons, we don't have the data, I guess. And that's what PSAB will give us once it's in place.
Once it's in place, we can use that during the budgetary process.
Right. Yeah.
You can make your speech about PSAT now and have a
Ms. Peach.
I'll just say one more thing. Yeah, I didn't mean to suggest that we're not doing any asset condition and asset management. We've been doing that for quite some time. But as Director Lush said, the engineers always kept that stuff tight to their chest. PSAB, the whole thing with PSAB is, and Councillor Lane is right, it brings it full circle. It gets the information, not just to council, but out in the public, in the financial statements. And that's the piece that was basically missing before. And what is meant to happen is that over time, it will take a few years, but over time, with the information being recorded, not just used internally for decision making, not just the internal management of those assets, but when it's used in the reporting, and the decisions that are made end up getting reflected and end up showing in the numbers, and that's where the accountability comes in towards for council. And that was a big piece of PSAB and the whole drive towards recording and reporting our assets and the condition of our assets, which was not done before. The management, they were always being managed, not roads and water and sewer in particular, but now it involves everything, and the recording of it in a public forum will be much clearer.
Okay. Councillor Aiken? You want to close it up?
Just to close the debate on the issue. As I understand it, we've got an inventory done, and we're following PSAB. But I think the actual selection of projects in the near term or in the midterm will always be based on inspections.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to integrate with our current PSAB system. And as I understand it, that's probably the piece that will progress over the next year or two. And I think, Councillor, you're onto something there, because you wouldn't want to be just spending your money frivolously and find out that the next generation gets saddled with this big liability of work that's got to get down the road. I guess the person we had in charge of doing all the asset inventory and following the PSAP compliance from an engineering point of view was Director Lush, and ultimately he got promoted, and there was a little void remains in his wake.
Yeah.
But we're working on it.
Okay.
So the motion's on the floor, sir.
Perfect. Okay. So let's call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
I have one other one.
Okay. What's next here now? Sorry. The Offshore Technology
Offshore
Conference?
Technology
Okay.
Convention is taking place in Houston as we speak, and of course, Mayor Sims is at that convention, and this is provincial government attends this, and a big delegation from Newfoundland as well. It's the largest oil show, I guess, in North America, with over 65,000 people attending and 2,500 companies with booths and that there. And I recommend that the mayor, I guess it's just
He's there. We're going to formalize it. Okay. All right. Moved by Councillor Stoyles. Seconded by Councillor Aker. Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Okay, motion is carried. And that brings us to Planning and Land Use Development Committee, and Councillor Aker is going to bring the report in this week.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The first item here is the establishment of an Affordable Seniors Housing Committee. This whole initiative, I think, originates with Council's feedback from our citizens, and also a desire to see more affordable housing for seniors within the city of Mount Pearl. Partly takes up some of the demographic shifts that are occurring in the city. We don't want our seniors necessarily just getting up and leaving for other places. We'd like to see them continue to live in an affordable environment. I guess Council could have considered looking at all of the bigger issue of affordable housing within the city or within the region, but I guess we've decided that might be a bit too much to chew off. And our priority, and I think this will be coming out in our strategic plan later on, our priority is affordable housing for seniors. So what we'd like to do is strike up a committee. A committee basically would be called the Affordable Seniors Housing Committee, and you can see on page 2 there the proposed terms of reference are listed. And I'll just read them briefly. But the purpose of the committee is to explore and recommend affordable housing opportunities in the city of Mount Pearl. The committee shall identify federal and provincial programs that can assist with affordable housing initiatives. The committee shall coordinate and plan affordable housing symposiums or workshops on affordable housing, and the committee shall prepare reports for Council's coordination. All right. Membership of the committee shall include Deputy Mayor Jim Locke, yours truly, 2 members of the community representing seniors, as well as the Director of Planning or designate. Mm-hmm. And some of the other items you see listed there are just housekeeping items. But essentially, this committee would serve the role to push this initiative through Council. We're interested in working with the private sector, the nonprofit sector, in doing as much as we possibly can, I guess, to facilitate more affordable seniors housing in the city. The plan is not to operate, not to become an owner of affordable housing, or to be a landlord as such. We want to basically see the private sector, the nonprofit sector take this on, and this committee is a very good start in that direction. Do I still have a mic?
Gremlins.
Gremlins?
Yes.
And so I'd like to move that we set up this committee.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
Thank you, sir. The next item, Your Worship, is the Team Gushu Recreation Complex. We have a draft concept plan. This initiative here basically is proposing some recreation infrastructure improvements at the Team Gushu Sports Complex, which basically is an effort to reflect the growth we need in our recreation facilities, as well as to help out in the consolidation of recreation facilities within the city. The proposed improvements in the long run to the complex include a new softball hut, a new skateboard park, potential reuse or expansion of Smallwood Arena, potential future upgrading of Arena Road, the potential future upgrading of Emberley Place, including the creation of gated access off the bulb at Emberley Place towards the park, proposed parking and traffic circulation improvements within the park, the potential relocation of the Sunrise Arboretum walk within the park itself to accommodate additional parking, and a potential future maintenance area to be used by city staff. So by putting that on the table within an area that's basically is zoned as recreational open space, this had to basically go through, it's a discretionary use, had to go through a public consultation process, which we began and culminated with a meeting on February 28th down at Park Place, chaired by Councillor Walsh with the Community Services Committee. We had a number of people who submitted written representations prior to the meeting, as well as some oral presentations were made during the meeting. Summary of concerns, as expressed by respondents, were, and there's 6 listed, speed of traffic and traffic volumes on Smallwood Drive, and the parking on Smallwood Drive during events, speed limit on Smallwood Drive to be reduced. So there are parking concerns when there's major events happening. The parking is spilling out over onto Smallwood Drive, and there's concerns with the speed and the volume of traffic that will be generated, again focused on Smallwood Drive. Then there's also issues with regards to the movement of traffic within the site itself. Right now, it's very difficult when there's a large event there trying to get off the site. You can be backed up usually for I wouldn't say hours, but for 20 or 30 minutes. And part of the problem is there's really only a single, a two-way access leaving the site, coming and going, I should say. What we'd like to do, I think, down the road is perhaps expand that so you can turn both left onto Smallwood Drive as well as to turn right. And also the effect of aesthetics concerns with the arena building being there. I mean, the building is old, looking a bit shabby, and I think we're going to address that down the road when we've called for proposals to redevelop the site, and hopefully we'll be able to take that into account in the longer term and making sure that that building doesn't become an eyesore. We're also proposing a skateboard park, and the general concern was that, it poses noise, drug, and alcohol concerns, which, in my experience is not necessarily true with the users of the park. But you also can't deny that some of that stuff does come with parks like that, but not necessarily is brought on by the users. But I'd like to also add, you can see that at community centers, you can see it at schools, you can see it at parking lots or open spaces. I think what Council's plan is to do in the longer run, or in the short run, when we build a skate park, is to ensure that that park is in a well-lit, open area, right there, the center of attention, so everybody can see it. It's not hidden away anywhere. And as a result, we'll be able to coexist with the neighbors without maximizing too many of the problems. Other concerns were the effect of additional nighttime lighting as the park is used, as well as there might be increased noise from the rental of the existing soccer hut building and that there. They're all valid concerns. I think we should write all of the respondents back and thank them for their feedback. It was very well received. There's also one external issue too. This property borders on the border with the city of St. John's, and when that, I guess we call it the Sprung property, when that property was sold to the developer, the city of Mount Pearl advocated that there should be a buffer put in place between our recreation facility and the backyards of the houses to be built there. As I understand it, my choice of words is that was ignored, and the developer basically was allowed to put building lots in place where the back gardens basically are right up along the boundary between the two cities. And of course, it was always our plan to maximize the use of the land. So I suspect, unless we bring this to the city of St. John's attention again, that down the road we're going to end up with some problems. Or maybe I should put it the other way: the neighbors who live there are going to end up with the problems. You know what I mean?
Some errant fly balls.
But city staff do assure me that we were very proactive when that development was begun, and we advised them up front. What else have I got here? I'm not going to say too much more because this really was a joint effort of the Planning and Land Use Committee as well as the Community Services Committee. In fact, it was led by the Community Services Committee, and I'm sure Councillor Walsh would like to add much more to what I've said. The motion on the table basically is to support, recommends the following. First of all, a response be prepared to the City of St. John's regarding the matter for the buffer outlining the City of Mount Pearl's position, and that's regards to the buffer on the boundary. The matter of the speed limit and parking along Smallwood Drive be referred to the Infrastructure and Public Works Department. I guess that's basically to look at basically increased patrols on Smallwood Drive, as well as the egress coming and going from Smallwood Drive onto the site. Other matters raised by the... Was that, sorry?
I think the patrols are community service.
Yeah, you're right, actually, yes. Yeah. And basically, we also approved the draft concept plan dated February 14, 2011, and the range of associated uses as proposed by approved, as proposed to be approved, and I so move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any further comments or questions on that? Okay, call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
The third item, I got to get through all of the
Yep.
documentation now. We're getting there. Okay, this is from a committee report dated April 21st. It's the proposed second building on one lot. It's proposed by KMA Pharmaceuticals on 96 Clyde Avenue, and basically they want to build an additional building. It's gone through internally. There's no issues here. The Planning and Development Department are happy with the plans as and the concept as provided by the proponent. And basically, the motion would be to allow them to put a second building on the lot at 96 Clyde Avenue, subject to all the internal normal requirements, such as the city inspectors, the City of Mount Pearl's finance division, and that. And most importantly, the signing of the development agreement for two buildings on one lot. And I so move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
The second item coming from that report, Your Worship, is the reefer repair services, the cease and desist order as it relates to properties on 172 to 180 Glencoe Drive in Donovan's. We were advised on April 4th that an order, and it's attached to your kit, was issued to reefer repair to cease occupation of a building under construction at 172 180 Glencoe. And the city has received a written response dated April 13, 2011. In that response, just let me get to that, folks. What they would ask is that they could have a temporary occupancy of the property. The problem is, however, for this, you can see there are 20 items that are outstanding. And this is a long list. There's a long history here of the work still not getting done. And there's been repeated correspondence back and forth between staff and also the owners of the property. We would just like to see that this work get done sooner rather than later. But on the other hand, we just can't sit idly by. We don't take this action lightly, but we feel we've given the owners of the property ample time to correspond and work out the issues that are on the table, but we're not seeing as much progress, I guess, as we'd like to date. So the motion associated with it is that the city immediately enforce the order, which would include, but not limited to, having the property immediately vacated, discontinue the water service to the property, and follow up legal action by the city solicitor. And I so move.
Okay, moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any comments or questions? Councillor Walsh?
Your Worship, one of the things that they ask for the operators of reefer repair, and we sympathize with the fact anytime there's a business trying to transition, especially if they don't have a place to go, we can't do what they're asking. I think we support that, but I think one of the pieces of information that a lot of people seem to have that's incorrect is that we can issue things like temporary occupancy permits. There's no such thing.
Right.
You're either allowed to occupy it or you're not allowed to occupy it. You either are in compliance or you're not in compliance. And in this case here, as much as you'd like to be able to accommodate, the fact is there are all kinds of liability issues if we actually give them a permit that says it's okay. We are now taking them off the hook, and we're putting the citizens of Mount Pearl and the taxpayers of Mount Pearl on the hook. So we really can't do that. As much as you'd like to try to accommodate, things go over schedule. You don't have a place to operate your business anymore. These are all problems that businesses have to deal with when they're trying to improve, expand, or build new facilities.
Right.
But they're not our problems. Sometimes you have to find temporary locations. I just wanted to make the point that this temporary permit thing really
Can't happen.
It doesn't exist.
Right.
You're either in compliance or you're not in compliance, and if you're not, our necks are in the noose, and the taxpayers of Mount Pearl are on the hook for the money because there are all kinds of issues pertaining to insurance, liability, signing off on occupancy when you know full well that the conditions are simply not being met. So it's not something that we can do.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Tessier?
I just want to echo that actually, because I mean, when we're looking at this, there's some significant things that, like some significant documents that we haven't received, fire alarm system reports, and things that could actually cause, risk to public safety. So again, it's not like we're dealing with, with smaller technical, issues here. These are serious. Some of them are life safety issues. So I agree with the recommendation wholeheartedly. And as much as we don't like to do it, again, ample time has been given for these documents to be submitted. And if it hasn't been done, I mean, I think the recommendation is actually just and fair.
Okay. Anything further? All right, call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
The next item, Your Worship, I think we've moved number 3
Yeah,
from
we've deferred
public
it,
to
yeah.
committee of the whole. So the next item then will be the notice of motion.
Okay.
And the notice of motion, and I'll read it. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act 1988, take notice that I will, at a regular meeting of council, move an amendment to the text of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 1988 that, if enacted, will amend the residential high-density land use zone table to modify the minimum 13.5 meter frontage requirement development standard for subsidiary apartments where there is an established pattern of existing subsidiary apartments in place. The purpose of this amendment is to provide council with the authority to consider a subsidiary apartment proposal at 14 Paddon Place, dated today, Councillor Daybaker.
Okay.
The next item, Your Worship, is the development permit list. We have 2 there, as you can see, number 14 and 15, and I move approval.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
The next item is your residential and commercial building construction. For the period, the residential building construction was $1,654,500, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. All the question, all those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
And on the commercial side, we have a total of $10,000 for the period, and I so move.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Call the question, all those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
And there's nothing there for municipal works and subdivisions, and that concludes what's in the kit.
Yeah, we got one outside here, I
We
think.
have one outside, which is a variance request for 2 Brodie Street, a single dwelling. It's a reduction in the minimum building line setback. It's an application to construct a 162 square meter single dwelling at 2 Brodie Place. The proposed location of the building, or the dwelling, does not meet the minimum building line setback of 8 meters, but it is within council's discretionary 10% variance. We have polled the neighborhood, did not receive any written responses to our notices that we sent out. So, I guess we have no problem with it. The motion is basically to reduce the minimum building line setback standard at 2 Brodie Street to 7.2 meters to accommodate the single dwelling according to the 4 technical conditions that you see there, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favour? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you, sir. And that's it for our committee reports, which brings us to new business. Memory serves me correct. I think we started with Councillor Tessier last time. Anyone verify that? We didn't?
We started on this side.
Okay. Oh, we mixed it up, didn't we? All right, well, we'll start with Councillor Tessier today.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few things. Bulk garbage is back on again. I noticed my neighborhood today was, this weekend started off with some pretty heavy volumes of bulk garbage. So just a reminder to residents that yes, while we accept that on the weekends you'll need some help probably lifting some of your bigger things out for bulk garbage. If the truck goes by and your neighborhood is done, it's too late to put your bulk garbage out after that. Also that the metals may not necessarily be picked up at the same time as some of your other bulk garbage. There's always a secondary pickup for things like that. And I'd also encourage residents to make sure that all their bulk garbage is stacked as neatly as it possibly can be, and that it's in a safe manner and that it's not blocking the sidewalks for our pedestrian traffic. This is the beginning, and of course I'd encourage people to be very patient waiting for the bulk garbage because there's a lot of garbage after all winter long, and we're happy to clean out our sheds after all winter long too. I want to extend congratulations to Ryan Cleary, who is going to be our new MP representing St. John's South Mount Pearl. I think Ryan is, he's no stranger to any of us, of course, and I know that he'll do a wonderful job representing us in Ottawa. At the same time, It comes with mixed emotions because, of course, Siobhan Cody will no longer be representing us either, and she has done a stellar job for us as well. So I think that we need to extend our sincerest appreciation to her for her commitment and dedication to our community while she served. Also, starting on May 10th to the 14th, Etc. 25 is going to hit the ground running. This year, I think the Etc. program is going to encapsulate the past 25 years of shows, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. As a parent of a child who's involved, I can tell you the dedication from the children is unbelievable. I mean, they never had an Easter vacation.
Right.
They got up every single day during Easter vacation and went to the school.
In their pajamas.
First thing in the morning, they got picked up for supper, and half the time you carted them back again after supper.
Yeah.
And sometimes they didn't want to see you for supper. They hung with their friends, and you just never saw your kids all Easter vacation.
No, it's a great program.
It was excellent.
Yeah.
It was excellent. But they do, I must say, they do just an absolutely...
I always love this program.
Yeah, that's right. But they do an absolutely tremendous job with Etc. 25. I know we've all been to the shows. Everybody's been there, and I'd encourage anybody, if you have the opportunity to take it in, take it in. It will absolutely blow your mind. The talent in this community will blow your mind. It is so good. It's high caliber performance. Tickets are on sale now. They can be bought at the Glacier box office. Well worth every nickel of the $21 that you will spend. You'll walk away absolutely impressed. And of course, none of this happens without the dedication of the people at the helm, and that's Carl, Jackie, and Justin Golding. They have, for the past 25 years, dedicated, oh my gosh, countless days, weeks, months, yes, of their lives, facilitating this event, running it, organizing it, choreographing it. It is just stellar, as we all know. So again, 25 years of dedication to the children of this community and to the community and region as a whole with the performance itself. It's just second to none, and so I just wanted to encourage people to go out and see it, and of course to extend thanks and congratulations to the Goldings and all of their performers involved.
Yep, here, here.
Thank you.
Great program. Thank you. Councillor Lane? Nothing?
I'm after missing a couple of meetings. So I'm going to start off. Will I start the bottom and listen to the top one? No, I don't have much. Don't have a mic. Two items actually. Again, without getting repetitive, I want to congratulate Ryan as well and Siobhan. Obviously, you know, in terms of myself and Siobhan, I suppose we were always on the opposite sides in terms of the colours, red and blue and so on. But I did have a lot of respect for her. I do have a lot of respect for her, and there's no doubt she worked hard in the community while she was here. There wasn't an event, I'm sure, that you attended, Harley, that she wasn't there in attendance and talking to people and listening and so on. So I thought she was a wonderful lady. I think she is. I know she's a wonderful lady. I wish her all the best, but that's politics, as we all know. And Ryan had a lot of good stuff to say, and I guess we're going to hold him to it now. But he's certainly a passionate Newfoundlander. There's no doubt about that. And so good luck to him. I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to meet with him as our new MP sometime in the near future. Couple of items. First one, I have a question for Mr. Lush. I always got one for Mr. Lush, don't I? I'm wondering, I had a business owner in Mount Pearl Business Park, Donovan's Business Park, who had expressed a concern as it relates to the new overpass that's going to be built here on Topsail Road by Chester Daw and so on. And the concern was, I guess the concern related to the fact that when you're coming in, I think, off the Trans-Canada now, that because you can't go down Topsail Road anymore, or Kenmount Road, and then sort of take that right-hand turn ramp onto Topsail Road, that what everyone's going to end up doing, perhaps, is to go through by Donovan's Irving, Glencoe Drive, and so on, go down Glencoe and on to Coruscant Drive on the Topsail Road as a way of getting around it. And traffic is congested enough there as it is, as we all know. We put in a set of lights to try to do, I guess the jury is out, you know, on how that will work or not work, but put in those lights. If there's going to be additional traffic flowing through there, because of all those lights, you know, the flow is not necessarily going to be running through there quickly, I wouldn't think. So he feels that that may be a big problem being created by that. I'm wondering, did the provincial government, because that's who's doing this, Work Services Transportation, did they not have any consultation with the City of Mount Pearl in terms of, and not just Mount Pearl, I'm sure St. John's Paradise River, in terms of the impact of what they're trying to do? I mean, I just heard the minister, I think it was, in the media like a week ago talking about, they were going to do this and that there was going to be, a major disruption there for several months. I'm sure he said it was several months, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 months or something. And I'm wondering, is that going to have a major impact on Donovan's? Is that going to create a big problem for us? So if they haven't consulted with us, which they really should have, I think that we should consult with them, find out exactly what the plans are, and is that going to have any impact on Donovan's Business Park? Because I could see that happening, right? I hadn't really thought about it, but I could see that being a concern. So I would ask if our director maybe could look into that and give us a report on it.
Mr. Lush, you got a response?
I guess they've made us aware of what their plans are. They started the plans years ago, and really I guess why they're moving ahead now is they finally bought out the last property owner. But they've had the plans for numerous years, and they began the consultation process long before I was even director. But there will be delays, but I don't believe the actual interchange has changed other than there's more lanes. The configuration I've seen had no more off-ramps or on-ramps. It was the same configuration with 4 lanes across.
I don't mean once it's done. I mean while they're doing
During the construction.
During the construction, that lane to get on the tops of the road, as I was told now, and I don't know, will be shut down. You won't be able to go through there and turn on the tops of the road. So therefore, in order to get on the tops of the road, you're going to go through Donovan's and get around it.
They haven't finalized any plans until the contractor's awarded. They're not at that point, but that's certainly a possibility, and there will be inconveniences. That's the nature of construction. That's just
Okay.
Well, seeing how we're going to be ultimately, it's not going to be Minister O'Brien's phone ringing. It's going to be mine and Councillor Walsh's and Soils and so on. If it's a major problem, I would think, then I would like for us to understand exactly what's going to be shut down or what's not going to be shut down, when it's going to be shut down, to have an understanding as to will it have a major negative impact on traffic flow through Donovan's. If we could just ask the question and find out.
No, yeah, there's no problem. I guess they wouldn't do that intentionally. We have a good relationship with them. We can pick up the phone anytime, make a call. So, and the same thing, any complaints, they're very quick to try to minimize problems if they didn't realize the problems are going to be created. So I don't foresee anything.
And maybe there won't be if there's not perfect.
Right.
If there's not perfect. Excellent.
Well, good to have it on the radar.
But let's be proactive before the phone starts ringing off the wall.
Indeed.
And the only other item I had, Your Worship, was I've had a couple of complaints, I guess, over the last few weeks, and I have a couple more to come, as it relates to property maintenance. And I'm sure we all get these usually in the spring of the year. But they tend to be more often than not related to rental properties. I think even some of the issues we just recently had with the rodent issue on Emerald Drive and so on allegedly were rental properties. I guess really the message here is, and I don't know how we make people more aware. I mean, I think we put it in Mount Pearl Matters in the past, but if you own a property, then ultimately you're responsible for that property, whether you're living there or you're not living there. If you have a tenant and you're renting that out, and your tenant throws the garbage out the night before, and the gulls tear it up, and you're given a $45 cleaning fee, that's not going to the person who's the tenant. That's going to the property owner. So the bottom line is, I guess, is that if you're into the rental property business, and that's really where we get into the biggest issues. Quite often we have people don't even live in the city. People don't even live in Newfoundland. We have people living up in the mainland somewhere who own properties and are renting them out through these various companies and so on. They don't have to obviously put up with the mess or the rodents or anything else because they're not living there themselves. And quite often, as long as the rental check is coming in the mail, that's all they're interested in. Now, that's not to say that all landlords are that way. We all know there's very responsible landlords. But more often than not, when we get complaints about property condition and mess and fences falling down and whatever, or lawns not caught or not painted or different things like that, more often than not, they tend to be rental properties. And so I would ask people to be more responsible in that regard. That's it, Your Worship. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Stoyles?
Thank you. I have a couple of items. First, Your Worship, I would like for you to send some letters of sympathy out to Mr. Fred King, Marie Pike, and Kathy Dre passed away. All of them, of course, have been involved in different aspects of the community. Kathy, of course, had been sick for a number of years, but her husband, Eugene, certainly is a great volunteer. He volunteered with Frosty Festival as the driver for the youth chaperones and that, so I'd like for you to pass along letters of sympathy to them.
Indeed.
Last Thursday, I attended Brock Readings on behalf of Council at the Provincial B Bampton hockey tournament, and of course Mount Pearl won the championship on Saturday evening, and hats off to them, and it was great. I got there for the last 10 or 15 minutes of the period on Saturday evening, but I did stay Thursday evening for most of the first game, so I'm getting to see a few hockey games
There you
this
go.
year.
When Xander gets older, you'll be a hockey grandma.
I certainly will.
Yep.
I'm sure he's going to be in the, I think he's going in figure skating now. His
Okay.
dad is a very good figure skater,
Yep.
so I think he's going to be probably in figure skating. Also, Your Worship, the regional meetings that was supposed to take place in Hearts Content on May 13th and 14th was cancelled. I had mentioned it here last week.
Right.
But the symposium is taking place this coming weekend in Gander, and I know I'm going to be out on behalf of M&L. I don't know if anybody else, council or staff, is going, but anybody, it'd be nice to see some other representatives from Mount Pearl out at the convention.
Okay.
And as I said, Your Worship, I did attend Wreath Lane in at Confederation Building last week. There was over 100 wreaths laid in memory of loved ones and for safety. And of course, we were at the Seniors Awareness luncheon today. Myself and Councillor Walsh and Councillor Aker was there today, and it was certainly, I think, it was one of the biggest crowds that they had, and it was great. Great day for the seniors, an educational day and awareness, and they had a lot of organisations and businesses talk about seniors' issues and things like that. And today I also attended the Salvation Army lunch where they presented the annual review, and of course the Salvation Army does a lot of great work in our community. They offer a lot of children's programs and preschool program, and everything is free with the Salvation Army. The program is here, and I'm going to leave Ramona if anybody didn't get there and wants to find out about any of the programs that the Army provides. I certainly will leave it here at City Hall for any resident to see, and of course they have a website and everything again, and of course they had the kick-off of the Red Shield campaign, and of course Mrs. Susan Patton is the honorary chair for that again this year, and she was there to kick off the launch for that. So I was certainly an honour for me to be there on behalf of the city of Mount Pearl. Also, Your Worship, I would like for you to write also 2 letters, one to Basil Stewart of Charlottetown in PEI and Woody French. They had the Atlantic Mayors meetings, and the Atlantic Mayors meets twice a year, and for years the Mayor of Halifax chaired it. He was the one actually that started it, and at the last meeting a month ago they made some changes to it, and I had brought to our council that I think is important for us to be there. But what they're in the process of doing now, and what they did at the last meeting, is going to be a rotation in the 4 Atlantic provinces. So Basil Stewart is the new chair, and Woody French will be the next chair next year. So, and every year will be somebody, every province will take a turn. So, and have a chair, and it will reverse back and forth to the 4 Atlantic provinces. I think is a great step to move forward, looking at Atlantic issues. I mean, we just had a new government elected last night. Saying a new government, I mean, they just got a majority government last night, and I think it's important for municipal leaders in Atlantic Canada to be on the same side when we're up dealing with Ottawa, and I think it's important to be at the table anyway. I would like for you to write letters to those 2 gentlemen, and glad to see the change made in that organisation, and that is just not one province and one community looking, to to do it all and cheer it forever and a day. So I'm glad to see that change happening. Also, Your Worship, I've been in Donovan's a number of times the past couple of weeks over Easter, and the lights on Glencoe Drive, I have to say, is just great to go in and to be cutting back and forth on the street and get through safely, because before the lights went in, if you were on, trying to get out of Glencoe Drive, no matter which way you were turned, there was always almost a hazard to be there. We've had a number of complaints, of course, that's why we put the lights there.
Right.
And I have to say, being there the past couple of weeks and driving through Donovan's, I got to say I'm delighted to see the lights working and doing good. And I've had a lot of people say that they were glad to see that the city took the initiative to do what it was long overdue.
Right.
I have one other thing to mention today, Your Worship, and another letter of, and this is the one of our staff. This is to John up at the Reed Centre, who works in the fitness room. Today, when I was up at the Seniors Independence, I was talking to Bill Fitzgerald, and Bill was saying about this young man that's coming into the Reed Centre for fitness. He worked with Easter Seals on a program with us, and he did a work term with us for a number of weeks, and he has MS, and he liked going to the gym anyway. John took him under his wing, and he's up there now several times a week. John Egerman.
Okay.
And I got to say, Bill and a number of the staff was saying what a great job, and I went in and met the young man today, and he's so happy to be, in the program and doing something and getting out. And John certainly goes beyond. I know I've seen him up there with seniors and that. So I would like for us to write him a letter and say it's nice to say to some of our staff when you see them doing a good job, and to say, great, we think you're doing a good job. I think it's great to acknowledge it, and I'd like for us to send him a letter saying that we're proud that he's working with us here in the city of Mount Pearl.
All righty.
That's it, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Stoyles. Councillor Walsh?
Must be the meeting of letters. I just suggest, obviously, to formalize our thanks to both Siobhan and to congratulate Ryan. It might be a good idea to just pen a letter
I agree.
with the mayor's signature for that, and maybe have that forwarded. I just want to again remind people to jump on board with our 20-minute makeover. As I mentioned, it's Saturday, 9 o'clock. I was really saddened by the passing of Kathy Dre, and I was unfortunately out of the province. I was in Labrador and missed the whole, the wake and the funeral. Eugene has been a great community volunteer, and his kids have been very extensively involved. Kathy is, as Lucy said, has been sick for many, many years, but it was a sad occasion, and I was really sorry that I missed it, actually. I would have liked to be there in person to pay my respects, and I'll do that in an appropriate way later. The only other thing I want to mention, Your Worship, is, and I guess that's why I say it's the meeting of letters. The Lions last night celebrated their 55th anniversary in Mount Pearl, and they had their awards presentation, and I just ask that we send a letter to the club and to the president of the Lion Club. I think the incoming president is Jeff Aylward.
Okay.
But Sadie Sims has been the president and probably will be for another month or two. Great organization. I didn't realize they were 55 years here in Mount Pearl. That's a long time.
It is a long time.
And they do a lot of good work, as we all know, as do many of our other service clubs. But I think a letter to really signify such a tremendous occasion of longevity and active involvement and volunteerism is certainly in order. So
Indeed.
I'd ask that we do that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Aker?
Yeah, just a couple of things. The first thing is I was contacted by a resident of Kenmount Park. His name is Ron Perrell. And Ron had a concern with the location of the proposed Gushu Highway and how it intersected what they call Riverhead Road, which is out in St. John's. But after we got to talking, he was telling me about the trail that's up there off Montclair Avenue, and it goes all the way. It's a pretty rough trail. It goes all the way to George's Pond, which is kind of like parallel to Kenmount Road, headed in, say, an easterly direction.
Right.
Mr. Perrell asked me if I would pass on the council. I'm happy to do so. When that area, if it ever gets developed, now this is mostly, the direction the trail goes through is through the land that's part of the 190 contour. It's not available for development at the time. But he says you really got to walk that trail to appreciate it. Part of it is in Mount Pearl, even though that area hasn't been developed. And his hope and desire is that when that area ever gets developed, that trail be maintained. So he would like our planning people to put that on file if they could. And he'd also like, could we as a city contact the Grand Concourse and consider perhaps developing that trail, just like they have throughout the entire metro. Community services? Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Yeah,
Yep.
no, he'd really appreciate that. The second item, Your Worship, is the, I just want to make note that the Habitat for Humanity and Mount Pearl has supported, that cause with several builds over the years. They've just recently reopened the Restore over on Logie Bay Road, and although the items that we put out for bulk garbage are, primarily garbage, the Restore will take items which if they're in good enough shape, they will resell, and you can consider it to be a donation, basically, to Cabot Habitat, which goes towards people looking for affordable housing,
Sure.
which the city, of course, supports. So I just want to throw out there, the number is 753-2721, or you can email restore@cabothabitat.ca. And just to give you a little taste of what you can bring to them. They don't want stuff that they can't sell. They don't tend to use this material in the houses. They they set up a little shop and they like to resell it. But for example, drywall, they want a full sheet.
Right.
If I redo the bathroom in the house, they don't want the gyprock that got torn off the walls. You know what I mean? That's what the city will take in bulk garbage. So if anybody's doing any renovations and they have some material that's in good enough shape, if they just call that number, rather than taking it down to Robin Hood Bay, we can put it to good use for a good cause. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Aker. I just had one to add to what Councillor Stolz was speaking of when she mentioned that the Bantam hockey team won the gold medal. Speaking with the Vice President of Mount Pearl Minor Hockey, apparently we had 14 all-Newfoundland events over the Easter break. And Mount Pearl teams medaled in 12 of those tournaments.
And we never got the mayor to wear one shirt. There's something wrong with this.
There you go. 8 gold, 3 silver, and 1 bronze. So quite an accomplishment for Councillor Aker.
Your Worship, I actually coached a Mount Pearl team that hosted here in Mount Pearl, but we were one of the 2 teams out of 14, I guess, that did medal.
Did not medal?
I can assure you, however, that had nothing to do with it. The kids had a ball. They
That's
came
the main
together
thing.
as a team. Yes, and you're right. That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
There was no coaching. Thank you.
But I did want to acknowledge the the teams here because it was quite a showing. So kudos to all the players and indeed the coaches, Councillor Aker. All right, gang, that's it. So I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. All right.
We never won a game.
Thank you.
They had a ball.